Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. Apologies for the delay, just a small one, but we are here and we are live. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name's Rich and I run and operate the Hard Compound, one-stop shop for all things motorsport on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube. So head over to any of those platforms, search for us, you'll find us, and give us a follow. We cover all kinds of motorsport in the form of race reviews, race previews, breaking news, throwbacks, birthdays, anything, any articles that we want to put out, really, anything that's relevant, and some things that aren't, something that we just do for a bit of fun. We cover F1, IndyCar, BTCC, World Touring Cars, Porsche Supercup, got to throw that in tonight, bikes, NASCAR, rallying, anything we can check a stick at, really. So do give us a follow on those four platforms, as I say, and any notifications that you want to set, please do, so you don't miss out on any of the good motorsport stuff. As you might have noticed, we also do live interviews. We've had some fantastic guests on. All of our interviews are streamed live and they're automatically saved afterwards for your viewing pleasure on YouTube, Twitter, and on Facebook in the video section. We've had a number of fantastic guests on from across the motorsport spectrum. No disrespect to anyone else, but the biggest names we've had on, we've had the honour and the privilege of speaking with Mr. Mario Andretti and with Jackie Ickx, which is absolutely fantastic. From that era and on the, I suppose, closer to the present day, we've spoken to the likes of David Brabham, Alex Caffey, Mark Blundell, Derek Warwick, Stephanie Hansen. We've spoken to Mika Salo. Coming up to the present day, we've spoken with like Karen Chandhok. We've spoken with Will Power from the IndyCars, Brian Herter, Alex Palou, the reigning champion. We've spoken with Ari Leyendijk, Danny Sullivan, Willie T. Ribbs. We've spoken with Dick Bennett from West Surrey Racing. We've spoken with Terry Fullerton, the guy who Ayrton Senna said was his biggest rival in the karting days. But if you've tuned in tonight, you're probably a fan of the British Touring Car Paddock and of F1 as well, and the support series. We've spoken to a number of BTCC drivers, the likes of Jake Hill and Tom Chilton, Ollie Jackson, Chris Smiley, Rick Parfitt, Jade Edwards, Michael Crease, Rob Gravitt, Bradley Gravitt, Matt Neal, John Clennon, Steve Soper, Gabriele Tarquini, Rydell, Ian Flux, many drivers that we've spoken with. So do head on there and give them a watch. But don't do it just yet, because we have a fantastic guest, in my opinion, probably the best young driver out there at the moment to have come out of the UK. Very impressive in the I suppose, junior series, and he's now racing in the Porsche Carrera Supercup on the Formula One support bill, and in a number of Porsche series as well. So, without any further ado, I'm going to stop rambling because you haven't tuned in to listen to me. Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Harry King.
Hello.
There we are. Harry, how are you?
I'm very well. Is the video working all good?
Yep, everything's working. We are all fine. The sound is good. The light is good. You're here.
It's not frozen, is it?
All good.
The screen isn't frozen at all, is it? Or is it all good?
No, screen's not frozen. We're all okay.
Cool.
I think it might be... I think it might be an issue at your end, but it happens. We can blame the weather, weirdly, can't we? It's a bit stormy in the woods.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a different day compared to the touches that we've had the last few weeks recently. But yeah, it's very warmly welcomed, and I'm glad to be joining you on the podcast and the live video today.
No, I mean it's great to have you on. Obviously, yeah, we've had this plan for a while. Obviously, you've been busy with your racing. Also, it is obviously far more important. And so yeah, thank you for coming in this evening. I know you've had a busy day down at Brands Hatch. So yeah, thank you for hurrying back.
No, don't worry, no problem. I wasn't breaking any laws to do so, hence why we're about 15 minutes later than usual. But yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And obviously, there's no worries with the late start. Just want to say hello to the folks who are tuning in already. Michael Creasy, evening. Calling Harry a legend, obviously. John Kane, Matthew Clark, and we've got a few others. Thank you for tuning in, guys. If you've got any questions, do put them in the comment section, and we'll try and work them in. or if you just want to say hello, then do say hello. But yeah, we're going to crack on. Yeah, obviously you've been down at Brands Hatch doing some like tuition today. It's not a bad way to spend a day in my book.
No. I mean, there's certainly worse ways, but yeah, I'd rather be in the driving seat all day myself. I prefer that one a little bit more. But yeah, no, it's definitely a lifestyle surrounded by motorsport.
Never a bad thing.
No.
I've got a lifestyle surrounded by motorsport, but it's only in my own little bubble. I've just sort of just done it from the fans' point of view, whereas obviously you're making a very good career out of it, which obviously we're going to come to. But you're obviously from just down the road from me. Obviously, I'm we're based in Reading. You're just down the road. How did you first get involved and first get interested in the world of motorsport?
It came around actually totally by accident. I actually have an older brother, 2 years older than me, called James. And my father spent a lot of time away from home when we were younger with business in Europe and all sorts of things. And he thought, best thing to do would be buying a go kart. So the weekends we have at home would be, very well bonded. And my father was an avid motorsport fan. Brought it for my brother. Obviously, I was 2 years younger, so he would have never thought that I'd jump into it. And my brother, I think he got spooked out by the sound of it. The four-stroke Honda engine, which is like a lawnmower,
Yeah,
just a bit louder. He was totally spooked by it. So the car sat in the garage under a tarp for I have no idea how long, 2 or 3 years, and it
right.
came around where I had to go fetch something from the garage, and I saw this shiny chassis of a go kart. I was like, where has this been? What's going on? So yeah, the next day it was actually a weekend. Went down to it was actually a marina car park, which we managed to blag our way onto, which was one of Dad's friends, and yeah, went ripping around there for all summer. It was during my summer holidays, so I was absolutely loving life, and I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. So whilst my friends were going down the park, I was ripping around in circles in a little go kart. So yeah, it started as a dream and just as a bit of fun. Never ever would I have thought that I'd be continuing it. It was just a bit of a good pastime with me and my dad, and of course my brother alongside.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that. It's a similar story actually. We spoke with one of the British Superbike riders. We spoke with Ryan Vickers, and it was he had an older brother, and his dad bought him a bike. I think his dad was desperate to get his son into bike racing.
Yeah,
The son didn't fancy it, and Ryan coming up a couple of years later did. So it sounds like a
so
very
similar to mine. Yeah,
similar kind of thing. So I'm guessing, we've spoken to a number of drivers. I mean, even people, guys like Jackie Hicks, and they were trying to, their parents were trying to talk them out of going racing,
yeah,
saying, "No, it's dangerous. You don't." Well, it was dangerous when Jackie was doing it, but
yeah.
um, I guess there was no such issue from your side. Your dad, I guess, he was pretty pleased when you hopped on board.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased, but I was the sort of kid that'd be changing sports every week. So it'll be one week it'll be a pair of football boots, it'll be a hockey stick the other week, it'll be a cricket bat the next. So he was quite happy that I just turned my attention to one thing and actually was dedicated to it for a while.
Yeah,
I may have chosen the one that you maybe didn't need a new set of boots for a year, you need a new set of tires every weekend. But the wheels no way got to that point. So it was simply just a bit of fun. And yeah, we never expected anything of it. And yeah, it's quite cool to see and reflect on those days. I rarely ever do because it all moves so quickly. But yeah,
yeah,
it's nice to sit back and think about the good fun memories that we had.
yeah. No, yeah. I think that's important, isn't it? No matter what you do in life, it's always nice to think back to where you started.
Exactly.
Keeps your feet on the ground sometimes. Just want to say hello to Ty Cuthbert. Ty's tuned in. Evening, Ty. I think, yeah, he speaks very highly of you, him and his family.
Very nice.
You spent some time with them. So hello, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Well, that's a good question from Matthew Clark. Matthew will come to that
Yeah.
a little later on. So yeah, I mean, you didn't take any, well, your family didn't take any persuading for you to go racing. You obviously loved it. It was something that you chose out of that myriad of sports that you were doing. When did you first? I mean, did you get the desire to compete, or did you know that you could compete, or was it just something that was mentioned
Yeah.
about?
I was awfully competitive in everything I did. And it got
Yeah,
to the point where I was a bit of a brat, and I would, get really wound up by these things when I was quite young, 9, 10 years old, even sports day. I remember I probably cried over that, when I was probably 6 or 7. But yeah, I thought, I was usually good at most things that I sort of turned my dedication towards. But karting wasn't easy at first, and I wasn't actually, got in a kart. It wasn't like a miracle. It wasn't anything like this. But we were at a decent level where we could compete, and I think competing around with others, that's what sort of spurred me on. And then I really got the dedication for it and the passion, and I think that's where I really turned my attention towards it.
Yeah. And decided to go competing. I mean, I've obviously I've done some research, made some notes and everything.
Yeah,
Obviously, you so I mean, like you had your own cart. Obviously, we've spoken to a number of people. I think Michael Crease was one of them actually. I think it was Creasy. You said that he had to like go and hire a cart. It was just turn
yeah,
up, get in the car, and go racing, which a lot of people
yeah,
have done. Also, you had your own cart, which is
yeah,
beneficial because you can get it set up. Um, so I've got that you made your racing debut 10 years ago now,
really.
2012.
Wow.
Yeah, and you won 2 championships in your first year. I guess were they just sort of
Oh,
like local, regional ones, or
what
can
were
you not
they?
remember?
You might have to help me out here because you know far more than I actually do. I'll be adding these to the CV later tonight. So
I'll send you a
please
copy of.
remind me what they were. But
No, I've just found that you won your first, those 2 championships, and then moved up to the cadets class in the Super One,
okay, yeah,
um, and you got the national championships that year, and then step up the F6 cadets class, won the national open, and the overall title. I mean, that must have been,
yeah,
I guess, winning the title. That's something that makes you think, oh, okay, um, I'm
yeah.
pretty good at this. Yeah,
Yeah, this really changed. However, yeah, I mean, it wasn't the same go kart that I found sat rusting up in the tarp at
no,
home. We sort of stepped the level up a little bit, but it wasn't to the crazy extent that you see these days with
mm,
going out every weekend. It literally was 7 or 8 weekends in a year, which me and Dad would go. Yeah, we do this. We had a very close friend who was very experienced with karts, and he supplied everything for us. He was an absolutely awesome guy. His name was Jeff Johnson, and I owe a lot to him to this day for everything he did. But this was where it really sort of begun to get some momentum behind it. But at the same time, I was still at school with my friends. I still was playing football, rugby. I was still, all over the place with what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life, but I just enjoyed and looked forward to these weekends to go and experience, some, close time with my dad, and also, to compete at a high level and see how I compared against some of the best. And yeah, we started to pick up wins, a couple of championships, which obviously got some momentum behind us. But yeah, at this point, it was still, way out of there to think this would become something I would turn my whole life into. It was just
yeah,
just a very fun hobby that I found.
yeah. It's obviously a hobby that you found and enjoyed, and started to go well by the sounds of it. Obviously, winning the championship. Excuse me. I mean, you mentioned there, pretty much everyone we've spoken to on these things, there's always a moment where they say, "And then I met this person."
Yeah,
Um, and it sounds like that, yeah. And things kind of went on and you were able to go racing, whether it was through backing or through promotion or funding or whatever it might be. Was that the case with you? Did you meet? Yeah, there was that one person who really helped out and got you
um,
moving, or
yeah. I mean, fast forwarding all the way along the karting ladder, I got to about 13 or 14. Obviously, Genetic Juniors was becoming quite a well-known sort of brand and proving ground, and we just sort of took the plunge into that really, with a gentleman called Edward Ives who runs Elite Motorsport, which is quite a well-known established support
yeah,
team, support series in the UK. So Edward, along with another gentleman called Chris Hodgetts, who was obviously back in the day of the touring car era, he was very successful.
it's my era. Yeah,
Yeah, and these two combined, they sort of steered me in the right direction. But I'll be honest with you, the first half of a year of Genesis Juniors, it wasn't like it wasn't like a miracle. It wasn't like a fairy tale. It was probably the most awful couple of races that I ever had because I went from being this kid in karts who you know was typically used to podiums and picking up a trophy at the end of the weekend, and that was my satisfaction, to literally being shown the way round and coming back home in 17th. And this took a lot of getting used to, but I didn't really want to give up. I thought, if these kids can do it, then why on earth can't I? So,
Yeah.
and that's where my really competitive mindset came. And we kept at it. And at this point, we didn't have a massive amount of sponsors. We were with Elite, who was quite a new team at that point. So of course we weren't paying incredible amounts of money, and it was sort of done round by round, which is crazy enough to think about. And it was just a bit of fun, a bit of a hobby. If it stopped the next day, yes, of course I'd be very upset, but I wasn't reliant on it.
Yeah.
And it all changed midway through the year, where we just had a wonderful weekend where we got a win. And then it came completely out of the blue. It was, I think, my sixth round in Ginetta Juniors at Snetterton,
Yeah.
a circuit that I probably disliked the most, but
Right.
I still got my first win there, so I still appreciate it, and it has a special bit towards me. But yeah, this is what really changed everything for me. And then I thought, I've actually managed to take it to these guys. Let's stick at it. And then the sponsorship started coming, the interest, and that's what really sort of propelled me forward and allowed me to compete through the Ginetta ladder.
Right. I mean, just on that, I mean, just again, just slight sort of backstory. I mean, when you went from the karts to the car, I mean, obviously I've not done that. I did a bit of karting when I was younger and whatever, but I forget who it was we spoke to a couple of weeks ago, and they said that the jump into the Ginettas from the karts, it didn't really feel like that big of a jump to some people, but then other people have said that it was obviously, because it's such it's a bigger machine, it's a car.
Yeah.
I mean, did you initially struggle in any way to kind of get to grips with it, or was it just a
Uh,
case of
I didn't struggle
giving it
to
a go?
drive the thing. I just struggled to find. I was trying very hard in the wrong places, and this is where it was very important for me to have these two people on board, Edward Ives and Chris Hodgetts, to steer me in the right direction. And ultimately, that's where I found my pace from, because I got in it and immediately I was comfortable, I was happy. I wasn't particularly fearful of the difference in speed. You know, of course, the thing feels a bit heavy, a bit more lethargic, but I actually quite like that. Dancing with a car or on a road tire. So it suits me from that aspect. I just needed some fine tuning, and these two people provided me with that. And once we really got the understanding, it sort of fell into place really, and then we started, the big sort of rise up to where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to touch on the question from Ty, from Ty Cuthbert. I mean, you kind of touched on it, but I think, he's they're just asking, how did you get into Genettas in the first place? Was it just through having met people on the way through and just
Yeah,
brought something together, or
a couple of 5, 6 years ago, Ginesta Juniors wasn't at the level it was. It was still rather costly, but you compare that to the level of some karting, and it actually worked out a better option. And I had a couple of very kind people on board who weren't necessarily sponsors, but they just wanted to support my ambitions. And like I say, it literally was round to round. It wasn't like we had a set budget at the start of the year. We
yeah,
sort of went out there and saw what we can do. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's very many teams on the grid now that would accept the kind of weekend money that there was back in when I did it. But we still didn't have all the best equipment. We didn't have everything, but that all changed after a few years, and now Elite Motorsport is probably one of the most well-established teams in the support series and the token package. So I take a bit of pride. I'm still very friendly with everybody in the team there, and I owe a lot to them. So
yeah,
it's quite cool to see how I've grown and developed. They've sort of come along with me.
yeah. Which is fantastic. No, that's great, and thank you, Ty, for the question. Thank you. Um, I mean, yeah, you said that I've got a note here that you were in the winter series and you had a few races at Snetterton and finding your feet type thing. And as you said, you went into the year, was it 2016? That was the year you got that first win at Snetterton, and you had another one at Rockingham. Now, I've always found that Rockingham, from the outside looking in, from the fan side, it kind of splits opinion. Some people think it was just a bad idea from the start because it was the ASCAR oval thing. And other people absolutely loved it just because it was a bit different, with the bank corner and the infield section and stuff. Obviously, you won there, so it can't be all bad, whatever you say.
No,
But what were your thoughts on Rockingham?
I absolutely loved it. I
Yeah,
genuinely, it was a wicked circuit. Yeah, it's so mixed opinions. Of course, having a win there definitely helps. I think the style and the fashion we won it that first time, it was literally lights to flag by, a
yeah,
good advantage. I think that definitely helps it up my ranking. But every time I went there in the junior series and into the Genetic GT4 Super Cup, I really look forward to every test day and every day that we spent around there. I don't know why, maybe because it was anti-clockwise or something, but I think the flow of it really suited me, and I would do a lot to go back round there for one more test day in a cup car or something like that, or anything for that matter.
yeah.
But it was a really cool circuit, so it's a shame to see it go.
And it's so good you said that. I mean, again, we've spoken to a few drivers on here. We've, obviously, I think like Chris Smiley got a winner round at in the BTCC round at Rockingham. I've spoken to a few others. Spoke to Matt Neal about his head-to-head with Jason Plato in the pits at
Yeah,
Rockingham.
yeah,
But all the drivers seem to really love it. It seems to be the fans from the viewing side that seem to be a bit hit and miss with it. Although having said that, we've got like Colin Peach, who's one of the instructors down at Thruxton that I think you know pretty well. He yeah, he hated it.
really.
Yeah, I'd be interesting to see Colin. Why did you hate it? Can you pop it in the
I'd like to
comment?
see why. Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to see the answer to that.
interesting. But thank you for tuning in, Colin. Good to see you. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a shame it's gone. I thought it was one of the rounds on any calendar that kind of stood out, just because it was just a little bit different. I always liked it. So
We're in the
yeah,
same boat.
yeah, shame it's gone. Just to round up that season, obviously you got your first two wins. I got here that you had 8 consecutive top 6 finishes to like round out the season. I mean, happy with the first full season?
Yeah, it started off very rocky, but yeah, like I say, it gave us a lot of motivation. It created a bit of attention around me for those final few rounds. I didn't actually know we had 8 consecutive top 6 finishes, which I think the year that I was doing Genetic Juniors was quite respectable with the likes of their names, and you look at where a couple of the guys are now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't actually know that, so yeah, it definitely helped us create some momentum going into the second year, and it was a very obvious decision to do, one more year at Genetic Juniors.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and just as you alluded to there, I guess there was no intention to move to another team or any reason to. It was just a case of just carrying on what you'd started.
Exactly. I was happy where I was. The team was there. The two important figures that I mentioned were there, and we had a few sponsors who were tied in with the team. So it made perfect sense. It wasn't really any other. Our eyes were certainly not wandering. Let's say that.
No, good, excellent. Nice bit of continuity, which obviously always helps. Again, I've just got from the following year, you had like 9 podiums from 26 rounds. Again, very respectable, and as you say, what is a very competitive series with some really good drivers. And a win at Knock Hill. Knock Hill always comes up in these. A place you like? I mean, we'll touch on your race in the Porsches
Yeah.
in a while, but
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
is it a place that you like?
If you asked me after my first year of racing there, I would never have gone back. But like I
Really?
say, I think with a lot of racing drivers, once you have a good result there, you get a bit of a bug. It becomes a special place for you. And yeah, my sort of special place was always Knock Hill. It was a very far journey, but it always made it a bit back home, especially after you've had a bit of success. And
Yeah.
yeah, that win at Knock Hill that year was quite special because we didn't have a very good start to it. So I remember feeling quite a lot of emotion and relief that we got a win. I thought, if I can't win a race in my second year, but I've already won 2 in my first, like have I got worse? Or so it was a bit of a monkey off my
Sure.
back, and we won it in quite good style. So that always helps the case.
Excellent. I mean, I'm asking this as a non-racing driver because you guys are wired differently to the rest of us when it comes to going fast and slinging it into corners. I like going fast in karts and anything that I drive, but I must admit, I think I'd struggle to give it the full beans down Duffus Dip and things like that. I mean, it's an exciting bit of track, isn't it? I mean, do you ever have time to feel any apprehension towards a corner or anything like that, or is it just a case of
No, if you do
Yeah,
begin to feel any of that, you're in the wrong sport, I think. And
absolutely.
circus can be daunting, but you just got to get on with it. And in my eyes, I see just a lot of different references and techniques and ways to handle a car. And I always believe in myself that if I do make the error, I feel like I've got the ability to correct it, or at least steer it in the right direction. And of course, yes, you can't catch everything, and you learn the hard way sometimes. But I always feel that I have a very good connection with most cars that I drive, and if I don't, I simply won't push to that level. I won't be silly about it. But yeah, I think working closely with the team and setting a car up exactly how you like it is very important. And that one circuit, and you got to throw out the window, you know, the traditional setup books, because there's no place like it, and
Yeah.
you can certainly find some strange little bits here and there on a race car, even in Legend S Junior, as basic as they may be. But yeah, it's certainly a place which is rare. It's a track that I think everyone speaks about in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone seems to love it. It's just cold. I've only been there once. It's just cold. Um, Colin's come back about Rockingham here. It's more than like a facilities if you're not in the main paddock, and it would have been more fun if turn one went on a bit longer. That's a good point.
Fair point. Yeah.
Yeah, fair one. Fair one. Thank you, Colin. Cheers. So yeah, 2018 stepped up to the like GT4 Super Cup. Um, did it just feel like the right time and like a natural progression just to go at that
Yeah.
time?
I mean, I was still quite young. I was, about 16 sort of starting that year. So, we were on the younger end, but I thought another year of Jeunesse Juniors would already prove what I kind of needed to do. I kind of learned, and I wanted to get onto something with slicks, with wings. And of course, there's always the GT4 endurance route, but then they have assists, they have ABS, they have, life to make it easy. Whereas I thought that, if you go out and learn the hard way, you flat spot a few tires, you have a few spins, this will always, stay with you for the rest of your life. And after these 2 years of Jeunesse Juniors, we certainly begun to accumulate some good connections with people. And this allowed us to pursue Jeunesse GT4 Super Cup. However, I stayed with the same team, Elite Motorsport. We kept the loyalty there. This would have been their first year going into GT4 Super Cup.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of pressure. It was quite a well-respected series at the time. And so I thought, why not go against, no longer against other kids my age. You're up against real men. And I was
Yeah.
16 or 17 at the media day, thinking, yeah, this is quite a big stretch. But yeah, it was actually a really good decision to do that series. I learned a lot. Michelin slick tires. This was a big learning point, and I felt like having ABS and traction control would really mask and hide some of your problems, which you can't really hide from with a car like that.
No, that's a good point. No, good point. Just another comment there from Mark Wagstaff for BTCC Blueprints. Evening, Mark. We're going to come to that question. That is a good question. We're going to come to that a bit later on. Thank you.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, I mean, did you have any expectations going into that season? Obviously, you said you were, going into this paddock full of, fully grown men type thing. And I mean, did you have any expectations going in? Because the first round went pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any expectations, although we went to the media day, which is only at Brands Hatch Indy, but we had pretty decent pace straight away, and I thought, I feel pretty comfortable. I'm still learning the car. Maybe we'll see what would happen midway through the first year. So I was excited. I was quite apprehensive, of course, and I felt a little bit out of my depth. But and then I thought, everyone's the same bit of car, regardless. I may be a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit, less experienced, but we're still in the exact same, piece of machinery, and we've got the same sort of weapons. So shall I say to fight each other with? So yeah, I was young, but I didn't really think of any consequences of anything. I just went out and drove the only way I knew how to, the way I've been taught, and it suited the car really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, this was the year that I sort of, like I spotted you in the juniors the year before, but this was the year that I thought, right, I'm going to follow this guy because he was really good. And you said you got that double, you got like a double podium in the first round at
Yeah.
Brands Hatch, which is a pretty, it's a pretty good way to start. And then I said, and up at Donington, you managed to get, I guess, like the Grand Slam, I suppose you call it, like pole fastest lap and a race win. I seem to remember that being the time where people really started to, in the wider motorsport world, seem to sort of take notice of you from the fans' point of view. I always remember that Donington weekend, people were, there was a lot of people talking about Harry King. Did that feel like a big weekend for you, or was it just another weekend?
It was just another weekend of me getting my head down and trying to beat everybody else. But yeah, I was aware there was a little bit of conversation, but I just didn't really think anything of it. I thought, this is still not massively high level motorsport. I'm not going to get anybody asking me for photos filling my car up in the evening, am I? But it was definitely cool to feel that support, and I certainly did notice it. And you start doing your first signature, you get someone asking for your first photo, and then it's quite cool to feel that. Of course, you're not a superstar, but it's definitely quite cool when you're young to get people asking these sorts of questions, and this really fuels you with a bit of confidence. It gives you a bit of establishment, and I think once you start to get a good reputation in the TOCA paddock, it can really, really skyrocket you into some great places.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned like the TOCA paddock. This is on the British Touring Car Championship, like support. The support bill. I think it was the Clios at the time, wasn't it? Clios and the Porsches and everything else. There's obviously lots of different series there in the BTCC as well, and it's a good place to get yourself noticed, isn't it? If you can do well, and obviously Donington was a weekend that kind of did that for you. Again, just in the rest of the season, I said that you had wins. You had like 2 wins at Snetterton. Again, circuit you don't like, but you've got the wins there, which is great.
Yeah,
2 more, and then 1 more at Rockingham. So, obviously 2 circuits that you're quite good at.
Yeah, I mean, I never, when you put it like this, it sounds like I'm having a great time at these places, but I didn't really like them very much besides Rockingham. But
Right.
yeah, the results were okay in the first year. I wasn't massively satisfied, and but I was also very happy that we actually won some races and we actually established ourselves. And I was growing, I was maturing, I was learning how to handle my emotions in and out of the car, because I did have a bit of a temper and I was frustrated when I wasn't the best. And this led to me having a couple of DNFs here and there, but it's all part of the learning process. As long as you don't do the same mistake twice, then I think they're allowed to happen. And my first year, it was excusable to some extent. Of course, going home in the evenings, I felt like a complete idiot. But you wake up the next morning and you're looking forward to the next one. So it didn't really affect me too much.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's a good thing to have. I mean, people look negatively on people that get upset when they don't win. Even someone like Lewis Hamilton, if he's not having the year that he's had in the last few years, and saying, "Oh, he's whinging because he's not winning." It's like, well, I mean, we spoke with Will Power, the IndyCar driver, and he just said, "Well, I've just been working my backside off for a fortnight, and I've come 18th. Well, am I supposed to be happy?" And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting upset or
no,
angry at yourself or just frustrated, because it shows you care. It shows you got your fight, and as you say, as long as you learn from it,
yeah,
then it can only be a good thing.
yeah. Of course, as long as you don't do anything foolish, then it's allowed to happen. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be more concerning if you didn't have that passion and that emotion towards the sport. And this was the point where I was, thinking, if I actually dedicate myself towards this, I could try and make something of it. But it was never a reality. I didn't really think that, but I was excited
Even
for the
then,
future.
and it's obviously going well, but you still weren't thinking this is something I can make a
No,
career
no
out
way.
of.
I was still, mum and dad were very, passionate and drilling into me that I've got to focus at school. I've got to
Yeah,
make sure I get, my exams and my grades. And to be honest, this was, I hate to say it, but this was priority to me. They'd obviously installed it
yeah,
quite well within. I think this is what sort of gave me, a bit more dedication. And I think if I did turn all my focus towards the motorsport, I think I'd probably be, a little bit different to how I am now without the extra few hours of lessons in school and focusing on different things here and there. So, but I definitely at this point I didn't think this is my life, and no way.
no, it was still something that you were doing because you
Enjoyed it.
enjoyed it and you wanted to be good at it, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just want to say hello to Darren, Thipthorpe from excuse me. He's Mr. Crash Helmet, I call him, Darren. So evening, Darren. Thank you for tuning in. Now, 2019, this really was for me. This really felt like the breakout year. 11 wins from 23 races. Did the car feel better as a setup, or or was it just again carrying on the work from the year before?
It was the same car from the year before, just continuing the work. And I think the car I had was probably one of the oldest on the grid in terms of chassis numbers. It wasn't like
Right.
I got a special brand new shiny car at the start of the year. It was, it was a car which we'd known the history of, but the Elite Motorsport team spent a lot of time and made ensuring that the car was perfectly set up. And there was a gentleman employed by the team called Phil Blow, who is works very closely um, in Formula racing, and this guy I had a massive amount of trust in, and
Right.
he basically built the car exactly how, or set the car up exactly how I would have wanted it to be driven. And I think we sort of recreated the way that G55 cars were sort of perceived. I mean, I come from a junior, which was quite a soft car. Typically, these Super Cup cars were quite stiff, so you'd see quite commonly on television or if you stood at the side of the track, the splitter on my car would be churning away at the front on the brakes, whereas nobody else really had that. And I think we found ways to suit my driving style and pivot it the way I would have liked. And I didn't have anything different that year. I just worked on what I did the year before, and the competition certainly didn't change. If anything, we had harder competition the second year because Will Burns, a returning figure in the sport,
Yeah,
he's probably one of the most respected guys in the G55 Super Cup. So,
absolutely.
and he was a great competitor. He really spurred me along, and we had a great rivalry. Of course, at the time it was pure hatred, but now we can look back and laugh and reflect on it. But yeah, this was a really fun year for me.
Yeah, and it just shows the importance of having a bit of continuity and having a good team around you. Just to be able to get to set things up. Obviously, you're the guy at the front of it. Out on track and like doing the business, but awful lot of people behind the scenes, and
Yeah, exactly.
hugely important, isn't it?
And at this point, I've been car racing for 4 years, and I still haven't switched teams. You see a lot of young kids, they don't like the team or they don't have the results. They don't really persist, and they think moving team will change everything. But personally, we didn't have the funds to do that. We didn't have really anything. We just had a very good relationship with the team and the people that are around me, and that's what ultimately brought us to success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember personally 2 rounds that stuck out for me watching you were Brands Hatch and Silverstone. I was at both, and I said I've been keeping an eye on you for 18 months just because you'd caught me eye thinking, yeah, he's good. Um, I just remember those two. You just for want of a better term, you just smashed it. You just went out and won all the races, and it was just like, yeah, that season it felt like a breakout year. Obviously, it was your first championship that you'd won
Yeah.
in cars. Um, at the end of the season, did it feel kind of different? Did you think there was anything in the pipeline to move up, or was it just another season that had gone very well? I'm always interested to hear from someone who's won a championship like that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, winning any championship is special. And winning a championship on a token package in front of that many people is a
Yeah,
very special feeling. And to relive those few hours after that race that you win the championship, they really, really are quite special. And
yeah,
it's quite a surreal feeling. But of course,
mm,
you go back in the evening and you go back to normality, and then you're suddenly thinking, what's the plan for next year? And obviously, funds. Of course, we had great sponsors on board, and very loyal people. But we were thinking, what is the next step? And GT4 Super Cup, the next step is something quicker, right? You don't want to go into a slower car or
sure,
something different. Of course, front wheel drive. I wasn't interested in anything like that at the time, and I'm still
right,
not at the moment. But I was looking around, thinking, what could the possibilities be? And there was always the Porsche Junior program in
of
the
course,
UK, and the application was open, and I just sort of thought, this could be something. I think I didn't really have much self confidence, but I knew I could drive a race car, but I didn't know if I could drive a Porsche 911. I heard all these spooky rumors about them, and all these dangerous things, do's and don'ts. But I thought, maybe it's worth giving it a shot.
yeah, it's worth looking into. I guess and you said that it's an open application, so I guess you just applied and then just waited to hear what happened. And yeah, it all kind of went quite well from there. And obviously, you got on board with Team Parker, who obviously we know were in the BTCC as well at the time, but they're very well respected in the GT world, the Porsche world. How did that sort of move come about? Did they approach you? Did you go to them? Was it sort of bumping in the street type thing? Or
Yeah, well, obviously, once you get that Porsche Junior title, you become hot property in the Porsche world of Porsche Supercup Great Britain. We went and discussed with a majority of the teams, the guys who we thought would give us the best platform. And ultimately, Team Parker Racing, I felt the best connection, the best vibe. However, I didn't really make much of the decision. I had never met Stuart Parker until I actually jumped in his race car for the first time on the pre-season
wow,
test. It was all handled by my father and, of course, Chris Hodgetts, because I had full faith in them. And, they gave me the best advice, and they thought this was the right place for me. Because I think I was still studying or something. I couldn't go to the meeting because I had my studies. So they
wow,
did it all on my behalf. They come to a conclusion and come to an agreement which they were happy with. Of course, having the extra backing from Porsche Great Britain certainly helped with that. And we did it as a 2-year program. We didn't want to go for 1 year. We wanted to, really prove our intentions with the team and to get the ultimate support, which we certainly did.
yeah. So and that 2-year program was something that was on the table straight off the bat, was it? Or almost.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think after our year in GT4 Super Cup, it's certainly given us some a bit of a name and respect around the paddock, if you can call it that. And I think we were destined for good things if you looked at the CV, but Porsche is the most different kind of thing you could possibly jump into. So
yeah,
I was a bit apprehensive. I knew I was quick at the shootout, but I didn't know if I was quick against the all-time bests in the UK. So I was very apprehensive, a bit nervous because it's a very big opportunity. But at this point, I began to think I could make something of this if I do a good job. It's one of the biggest prizes I feel in UK motorsport alongside the auto sport. Red Bull Drive. I
yeah,
think Aston Martin and Red Bull Drive. So it's very, very well respected, and it's actually probably one of the best springboards for a young driver in GT racing. And the fact there's only one driver every 2 years is quite a
yes.
very limited and prestigious thing to have. So I was very,
Mm,
very grateful for this.
yeah, and it kind of gets you noticed, doesn't it? Because as you say, it's just one every 2 years, and
Yeah,
when it breaks out that it's you that has got it, it's like people again sort of. It's just more people knowing about you and more people sort of tuning on to what you're doing. Obviously, 2020 with the Carrera Cup, we had COVID. I mean, when that hit, I mean, there's obviously motorsport took a huge hit. All the hospitality and all the people working in the teams, and obviously the delay, and then the shortened condensed season and all that. Was it an issue for you, or was the backing from Porsche like a help in that kind of situation?
I was very lucky. This is when I met Dan Kirby from Octane Finance, and he was very stern and very honest and upfront about it. He had full support with me. Excuse me. And then Porsche, nothing changed there, of course.
Yeah,
So everything was in place. I was just literally at home training literally every day, just to make sure I can really hit the ground running. And Porsche have a good incentive, was good prize money with obviously a car at the end of the year if you win the championship. So this was like used as my main motivation to succeed. Obviously, for myself, I wanted to be the best, but it added a bit more value to the hard work that I was putting in. And obviously, I had nothing really better to do. I don't think many people did.
no, sure,
So and it was quite great. We could actually get out the house a bit sooner than some others to go testing, which
of
was
course, yeah,
felt like freedom at the time. But
yeah.
it was a really special moment. It was very bizarre. But I think the condensed season actually really suited me because we had some good momentum after the first few rounds, and it just sort of maintained from then on, really.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And obviously, it was a difficult time for everyone, but obviously, it was nice that you know, there's the guys at Octane Finance and obviously Porsche. They were almost saying, right, we're ready when we can go, type thing. We're ready to go racing when you can. And you mentioned about hitting the ground running. Boy, did you ever! It was. I think it was the only season where I heard fans of the Toka package talking more about the Porsches than the BTCC or any of the others. I mean, and it was mainly down to what you were doing. I mean, it was. I mean, when I found out you were going to Porsches, I was like, oh, that's fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But it was just amazing watching what you were doing. I mean, just how good was that car? I mean, you seem to just fit right into it in like a glove. It
Yeah.
just
No, I felt
it
so at home straight away. I don't know why or how, but I think the mixture of different cars I grew up driving, it just suited everything about me and the way I like to drive a race car, and that reflected on the stopwatch. You can't lie about a stopwatch, and
yeah
in this case, it was pretty good news for me. And yeah, I felt so at home despite the difference in speeds. And yeah, it just sort of went from there, really. I mean, the first round, we had pole position. That suddenly really opened my eyes. Yeah, it was the best way that I could repay Porsche as a thank you, because obviously there's a little bit of added pressure from there. You've got 2 years, and typically you need to win the championship in those 2 years to continue up your career.
yeah
And so yeah, having a win and a pole in my first weekend at Donington, yeah, I was pretty happy with that. And
yeah
it just continued, and second place really wasn't an option throughout the rest of the year. It was either a win or a puncher. That's how my season really ended. And
yeah yeah
I was pretty satisfied with that.
yeah absolutely. I mean, um, again from the outside looking in, it obviously you take racing very seriously as you have to, and everyone behind the scenes does as well. I mean, it's an expensive game, and there's big prizes to be had as you move up the ladder. But from the outside looking in, and this was reflective all across social media, people that were talking about the Porsche, about the Porsche series. It looked absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was so much fun watching you, getting curbs and just flying around. I mean, it was really exciting, but really quick. And it looked like you were just having a lot of fun. I mean, obviously you were taking it seriously and you were picking your lines and reference points or whatever. But at any point, were you just smiling in there, just having fun as well?
Yeah, I mean, as I was in the car, it was full focus and racing the stopwatch. But as I get out of the car after I think a good qualifying or a good race, I'm 20 years old driving a Porsche 911 Cup car. I mean, regardless of how well the results go, you're going to be happy. And
Yeah,
when they go well, and you look down at your chest, you see your Porsche Junior driver, and you feel the warmth and respect, and the friendliness from everybody. You do feel very special. And I think to think back on those days, just sort of me just having fun in a race car and being very successful at it. Yeah, it was very, very enjoyable time for me, I must say.
yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I was like tuning into the to the TV coverage, or when I was able to get trackside. I was watching it, and I just couldn't wait. I obviously couldn't get trackside that year, but which is a real shame because I think a lot of the fans. I mean, wow,
Yeah.
proper entertainment. But I used to really look forward to the Porsche races when you were in it. So for me, thank you for making it so entertaining. It was absolutely brilliant. It was excellent. I've got to talk about the Knock Hill race. That race. I mean, obviously, you had an issue, didn't you, in the first race?
Yeah.
Forgive me, it's
It's a
slipped my mind
water
what
pump
happened.
problem with the radiator, so it
It was a
simply has all
mechanical,
that.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you started 10th? Was it
I
10th, I
think
think it was?
it was double
Or
digits. I know that for sure.
10th or 11th, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, 10th. And 10th to first. I mean, around Knock Hill, in a, it's a short lap. It's not known for its sort of overtaking. You've got to be very aggressive. There's lots of curbs, lots of air time, four wheels off the ground, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How on earth did you do it? It was fantastic to watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very special weekend. Of course, this was still during COVID time, so I think the
Mm,
viewing figures on television were literally through the roof, and I
yeah,
think this was definitely a massive help towards creating who I was. But I remember I was so frustrated after that first race because that ended my win streak, and I was more disappointed about that than anything else. The
yeah,
championship was still in a good shape, so I
yeah,
was quite happy with that. But so I do remember one thing talking to the team principal called Barry Horn in Team Parker Racing. I remember turning to him. He's like, "Yeah, good luck, pal." And I said to him, what's the furthest anyone's ever won from Carrera Cup? Furthest back anyone's ever won? He said, I don't think it's from this far back. So as he left the grid, I remember saying to him, I'm going to go make some history, I think. And left it as that. And I thought, I
Wow.
sort of said that, promising that I would win. And I didn't want to let him down. And I said, although I didn't say word for word, I'm going to win. I
Yeah.
said to him, I'm going to try and make some history. So that was my
Cool.
incentive. And I was so hungry for it in that race. And we had such great pace in the car. And I felt just so at one. And the race was 32 laps. It was 30 minutes. But it
Yeah.
felt so short. And I lost track of time. The only thing I was looking at every lap was my pit board to see the gap to the guy in front. And, I remember getting into second. The gap was something like 5.2 seconds to the car
Yeah.
in front.
Yeah.
It was something crazy, but then I still saw that I have about 16 laps left. So I thought, well, that's
Yeah.
quite a lot of time. And I was, hoping for a safety car, but I couldn't hang out the hope for that. So I had to go and get my head down and do the hard yards. And yeah, it was literally like a 16 lap qualifying. And I felt
Just
destroyed after the
full
race.
send.
Yeah, I felt destroyed after the race. And yeah, the move we did on Scott on the last lap, on the, second to last corner, you couldn't really write those things. And I still
Yeah.
remember the faces on Stuart and Barry over the pit wall at Knock Hill. And that is, I still remember every bit of emotion on their faces after that. And, especially after DNF, I knew I could go home in a happier mood than I was 2 or 3 hours beforehand. So I was
Yeah.
quite relieved about that as well.
Yeah.
But that was a really special race to me.
Yeah.
And I will forever hold that one, very close to my heart as being, one of the best races I ever did.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. I mean, it certainly makes a long drive back, doesn't it? It makes it a bit more, a bit more enjoyable.
Exactly.
I mean, I often wonder when you come through a charge like that and you've got the lead. What went through your head when you took the lead? I mean, was it like, yes, I've done it, or was it? Were you? I mean, I always wonder what the emotion is. I mean, it's probably just
I
like
mean,
fired up, I guess.
I didn't show any emotion in the car, but in my mind, I thought, hang on, I think I've just actually kind of maybe won this. And I looked in the mirrors into the last corner, didn't really need to defend, and just drove it across the line. And
Brilliant.
the line came a lot quicker than my emotions could really keep up with. So I come across the line and I was celebrating, but it didn't really hit me until I got out of the car and I saw
Yeah.
the faces on everybody. And I saw, I've definitely made an impression on Porsche Great Britain at that point.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best ways to repay them as a thank you, along with the championship later on in the year. But that was a really, really cool weekend. But yeah, the emotions didn't really sink until, two 20 minutes after I crossed the line.
Yeah, came later. I think that's probably the moment where Porsche probably thought, yeah, we've got a good one.
Hopefully.
But that was excellent. Yeah, I mean that was probably one of the most enjoyable races in any series I've seen in the last few years. So
Good.
yeah,
Glad.
no, brilliant to watch. Brilliant. Obviously, you were crowned champion with a round to spare. Always nice to get the championship in the bag. But I think just for good measure, you went out and had a few more wins in the final round as well. And
Yeah.
but again, that sort of shows, obviously, I guess like a mentality that of wanting to win. You're already the champion, but you still want to go out and still do your best. You don't rest on your laurels, especially I guess when you're with Porsche.
No. Yeah. I mean, the championship was complete, but the stats at the end of the year were still ticking. So I thought, I cannot rest. I was not really one for giving up or resting. I didn't want to win the championship and then be known to finish second or third and be seen as a weakness. You could look at
Yeah,
that and think, sort of maybe he's given up early. And, I thought Porsche would be looking at everything I do. So I just attacked the weekend as I would. It just meant we get to celebrate the championship twice, I guess, which was always nice. And of course,
yeah,
the team's championship. So
yes,
that was always, I always enjoy repaying the team. I'm always quite a loyal team member. Of course, being 4 years with Elite Motorsport, 3 years now with Parker Racing. I'm not really one for jumping around.
yeah,
So I always like to repay the team. It's always an important part of what I do in the car. So yeah, that was always nice.
yeah, fantastic. Just to run through, I mean, at the end of that season, obviously, you mentioned there were some retirements, punctures, and whatnot. Three retirements, but from the 13 finishes, it was 12 wins and a second. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
I was quite happy with that, and
You
the
could take
prize
that.
money from Career Cup Great Britain also reflected. So
Yeah,
yeah, I was a
excellent.
happy boy at the end of that year. I could, you know, repay the family and take them and treat them as a thank you for the sacrifices and whatnot.
Yeah,
So that was always
absolutely.
nice to do, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that winter. Just having some time off and not trying to be the best at every single thing.
Yeah,
I did. I could be happy with second for a change.
yeah, nice. Nice to have that human side as well with the family after everything. And it's just fantastic. Last year, obviously, like, it was like you had like a dual campaign in the Carrera Cup and in the Mobile One Super Cup, which we'll come on to in just a second. The whole summer, or sorry, the whole winter before last season, all we heard was Harry King versus Dan Camish, and it was again, it almost dominated more than the BTCC stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it was a no-brainer to stick with the Carrera Cup GB, but yeah, with Dan coming in, obviously from the BTCC, big name, great driver, former champion. Um, just yeah, your thoughts on Dan? He's a heck of a driver, isn't he?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt in denying what he's done in Porsches has been quite impressive, especially in the UK. Um, I thought he had it quite easy in the years before, so I thought I wanted to give him a harder time, and
Yeah,
yeah, we did that, but I had a lot more on my plate, and I think I probably bit off more than I could chew that year with jumping in a different iteration of 911, the 992 Cup car. And I
yeah,
think this was, it was very, very tricky. I personally, I won't lie, I struggled a lot jumping between the two different cars, and
right,
I felt like I lost that really close touch with the 991 as I was still learning and developing a 992.
right,
So it frustrated me a lot, and especially after the first round when I'd done the first weekend switching back to back. I knew I had a lot on my plate, um, and of course, the first weekend we had a second, and then we had a win on the road, which was taken away from track limits. So
yeah,
already we were on the back foot, and my attention, it was hard. I had a wandering eye for the European side of motorsport because
sure,
I felt as though I could have already completed this. I've done what I needed to do in the Porsche Carrera Cup UK, but I was still motivated and keen to try and do it once more. But yeah, like I say, it was very tricky jumping between two different types of cars, and ultimately, the career next step was Europe. So obviously, I was having to sort of twist my neck back and try and focus on other things. But
yeah,
yeah, it was great to share the track with Dan. Of course, he was sort of I think when I was growing up in the Genesta Juniors, he was a guy who was doing similar things to what I did last year. So I was looking forward to the fight. We definitely had a lot of fights on and off
yeah.
on the track, and a couple in the in the stewards room, but not literally, just
Ooh,
discussions.
we
But
won't go
I mean,
into it, don't we?
that's always the case with motorsport, and I suppose if you do touring cars for a few years, you do enjoy the steward's office.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure he's the inside of the steward's office a few times. He's been in there. So obviously, you said it. You kind of, the like European series. Well, like the Porsche Super Cup, the Mobile One Super Cup was obviously, I guess, a distraction, but it was. That's where you were shifting. And you were alongside our good friend, Mr. Crease, who I'm not sure if he's still tuned in. He speaks incredibly highly of you. I mean, he's put in words like legend and hero and things like that. I guess you guys get on pretty well.
Yeah, we were teammates at the beginning of the series, so
Yeah,
we spent a lot of time traveling around Europe, pre-season testing, having a great time. Um, Maybe too much fun after some test days here and there, but yeah, I wouldn't change anything for it. He was a great teammate, great to certainly lift the spirits in the team, and yeah, bring a bit of fun to it. He certainly did stick out a little bit in the European paddocks as a different kind of character, but
you're kidding.
I think everybody loved him, and I still get comments from a couple of team managers or drivers going, where's that guy gone? He's a good laugh. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
we had a great bit of fun. We also set some records for getting back to the UK from some European countries on the road, thanks to Michael. But yeah, we had awesome bit of fun. But of course, I was still very focused on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve. But it just made it a bit more exciting off the track when I could sit down with Mike. I grew up through the Ginetta ladder. He grew up in the Ginetta ladder. We raced each other in GT4 Supercup. So obviously Mike's sort of seen me and witnessed me sort of growing up literally in and outside of a race car. So yeah, he's a good friend, and it's always a pleasure to see him every so often at the touring car weekends.
Yeah, fantastic. And just with Chris, I think people focus on the fact that he is great fun. He's a great guy, sort of life and soul, but it shouldn't be forgotten. He is one heck of a racing driver as well. He's very, very, very good. I think that kind
Yeah,
of gets lost. Everyone loves Michael Creese, the person, but Michael Creese, the racing driver, is very,
yeah.
very, very good.
No,
Yeah,
there's no denying that. I mean, yeah, he was in the Pro-Am class in the Porsche Supercup, which, I mean, to be a second and a half off, the pro guys in Supercup is still ridiculously quick. And,
very, yeah,
I'm sure he's going to kill me for saying this, but, he nearly had a win in Monaco in the Pro-Am class before,
yeah.
cold tyres after a safety car, which I think a lot of us nearly caught ourselves out with as well. But,
Mm.
yeah, it's a shame his Porsche career didn't see much longer, but he's promised me he'll come back. So I look forward to the day he does that.
No, that'd be great. That'd be great to see. Just touching on like Monaco. Well, actually, in the Mobile One Super Cup, obviously it's Formula One support, Bill. It's a huge audience, global thing. Any nerves? Because the first race was Monaco. I mean,
Yeah,
what a place to start as well.
yeah, no, that was certainly, yeah, it's the first time I felt real nerves in a race car, but
Yeah,
only for qualifying. For the race, I was very relaxed because I knew it's a very tight place. If you think about it strategically, you just keep the things on the straight and narrow and be consistent. You should finish where you start. And we made up 1 or 2 places in the race to finish ninth, I think, on my first visit, first Super Cup weekend, which was quite respectable. So, yeah, I was relatively satisfied with that. But yeah, definitely for that qualifying session, that circuit, first proper time driving a 992 Cup car in anger. It felt very, very out there, but it was a cool experience nonetheless.
yeah. And it's a I hate the word iconic, but it is an iconic circuit. I mean, it hasn't really changed. It's just crazy. I think it was Ty Cuthbert. Do correct me if I'm wrong. I think he asked earlier on. He goes, "Just what's it like to drive Monaco?" I mean, it must be immense amount of concentration because
Yeah, I
there's no runoff and curbs and
no,
bits.
it depends who you speak to, but yeah, I think if you're on the upper echelon of being quickest in qualifying and things like this, which we were pole at Monaco, and then we got demoted to second, um, and then we incurred a yellow flag penalty, but we would have been on the front row. So, that qualifying session, I remember not remembering anything from it. I remember nothing. Yeah, I simply remember nothing from the qualifying session,
Wow.
because it just took so much focus out of you. And yeah, I mean, you literally just at one with the car, and you got to be like that because if you don't misread something that the car's doing over a bump or a slight lockup, you will end your weekend because the car will most likely not be straight again.
Yeah,
So it's a
sure.
big pressure weekend. Of course, Super Cup, there's no drop scores either, so you need
Mm.
to make sure you make the most of it, but don't you know end up being too risky.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Wow, so cool. I'd love to take anything around there. I get a Fiat
Yeah,
Panda and drive around. I'd love
it
to.
is. Anything is cool around there
Yeah.
for sure.
Especially coming out the tunnel, the dark to light, the light change. It must be
Yeah,
like another
and
challenge.
yeah,
Wow,
it's incredible. It really is.
fantastic.
And the practice sessions and qualifying sessions for Super Cup are very late. So, 5 p.m. at night, the sun is in the worst position possible. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I guess it is. Yeah,
and,
you're,
and
you're
with the
coming
wind,
out of the tunnel into the sun, aren't you?
yeah, and with the windscreens, they're not glass anymore. They're made out of this plastic, which when the sun reflects off it, isn't the most pleasant thing to look through. So,
Wow.
yeah, it made it a bit of a tricky, but it adds to the challenge, and same for everybody else. So why make excuses?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Um, I, the circuits you raced, obviously there's like Monaco, Red Bull Ring, Spa, Zandvoort, Monza. I mean, some of the best circuits out there. I still call Red Bull Ring the Österreicher Ring because I'm old. It
Yeah,
was bigger and longer and sweeping. Did you have a favourite of any of them? Because they're brilliant circuits.
they're
I
they're
always think
they're
Zandvoort's underrated. I think it's
they're all
great.
really cool. I
Yeah,
I enjoy Monza a lot. It reminds me a bit like bit like home. Big curbs and very little runoff, and you've got to be so precise with the car in the air. And of course, Monaco is a highlight simply because of it's Monaco. But
yeah,
yeah, there's no real highlight. I just look forward to each and every round, and I thrive a lot on my past results to dictate whether I like a place or not. And that's just the way I am as a driver. But
Yeah.
I enjoy driving all of them. I think maybe the car helps a lot with that to bring a bit more pleasure out of the driving. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Spa in a week's time. This will be really exciting to get back around there.
Yeah, fantastic circuit. It was probably like one of my favourites. That and Bathurst, I love those two. Nothing
Yeah.
like a big hill to get you, yeah, to get your attention. So this year, you've moved to pretty big team. With Lechner and alongside Mr. Pereira and obviously all the other guys there. How did that come about? Was it on the back of what was being done last year and being within Porsche? And
Yeah. I was coming to the end of my 2 years as a Porsche junior, and you don't just get another contract slapped on the table. It doesn't work that way.
no,
So I was, scratching my head a little bit as to what to do, whether we go to endurance racing. But I felt like they had so much unfinished business in a 992 Cup car, and I thought it'd be a shame to leave Porsches, especially with the relationship that I have and the feeling that I get from the cars. So I was excited and I was keen to try and get back into Super Cup. This was made a lot easier when I got the contact from Robert Lechner, who I remember speaking to in Zandvoort during the season. We sat on a golf buggy, just me and him, and he just asked questions about me, about everything. And little did I know that he'd been watching every single thing that I've been up to. So
right,
he definitely had, an eye to what I was doing for next year.
brilliant,
And he was, very supportive. And he said, "Look, let's meet in Austria." I got a text message from him. So let's meet in Austria on this date at our HQ, and I'd like to present something to you. So I went out
wow,
there on my own. That didn't require any managers or anything. I still don't have one to this day. I do it all personally. I feel like that's the best way, and of course, I have a lot of people I can turn to for advice, especially within the Porsche world. In the Porsche in the brand as well. So I had a lot of guidance and support, but a team like this, which is one of the highest respected teams,
yeah,
being in a BWT pink car, which are always well supported.
yeah,
I got presented with the contract in front of me, and he said, "We want you for 2 years, not just one." So I already knew, hey, these guys are pretty serious. They may want me quite a bit, and
wow,
I sort of went back to Dad and said, this is what we've got, and you know, it was a no-brainer.
yeah,
It would have made no sense to say no. So yeah, we absolutely went ahead with that, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions so far. Don't want to jinx nothing, but it's been a very good decision thus far. So I'm very happy with how it's played out.
yeah. Brilliant, love that. Like the 2 year contract, it's real like intent on their part, and obviously that gives you like a shot in the arm. I think, oh wow,
Yeah,
to feel wanted. I mean, I remember when the news was announced and when they said that you'd gone there. I think I just went, wow. I mean, that's a heck of a move. As you say, such a well respected team, eye catching team, obviously with the colour scheme as well.
indeed.
Um, and it's all sort of gone. Yeah, it's gone pretty well. Like a podium on your first race in tough conditions at Imola. I mean, Imola's a proper old school circuit. I remember it before they changed it because again,
Yeah.
age. And it looks like a challenge to drive, and to have that in those conditions for your first race and to get on the podium, that must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, every time you come out of the pit lane in these cars, you look in the mirror, you see a pink wing mirror, and you see the pink wingtips of the massive rear spoiler on the back of the car. And I kind of grew up watching those pink BWT cars in like 2017, 2018. So it's quite surreal. And you sort of, you look in the mirror
Yeah,
and you see your BWT helmet on, and you think, okay, this is quite cool actually.
yeah, wow,
And working with the team, the way they are, the way they operate, you have everything which you require to be quick. So there's no excuse, there's no hiding. Of course, there's a lot of pressure to perform when you have everything delivered there to you, but so do your teammates. So you've
yeah,
got to really keep your head down. You've got to work very hard at it. And I can quite honestly say this is the hardest series I've ever come across.
really,
With the level of drivers, the ability, and just how close everybody is on pace. You think you're you're a little bit special here or there on a certain part of the track, and the guarantee there's somebody doing it better than you. So this is where you've got to work very closely with your engineers, your team, and let them have a great bunch of people surrounding them, so you have every bit of support that you require to be quick. And obviously that first weekend at Imola, we didn't have a great qualifying. We got held up by a Pro-Am car, so I qualified 7th, and my 2 teammates were ahead of me. I suddenly thought, that was quite a rough evening. I thought, I'm not pulling my weight, so I had to make amends to it the next day. And we come through in the wet conditions, make up 4 positions in Super Cup for a 3rd place podium is quite unheard of. So we definitely redeemed ourselves, and I proved to the team, why they should have had me, and it was the right choice. And they were certainly very delighted with that.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, it was a great drive. It was very cool when I saw you got the podium. It was like, yes, it was it's a great way to start. And obviously, you can just skip forward. I mean, you got on the podium at the British Grand Prix. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's I mean, that must have been, again, that must have felt great to be on the podium at Silverstone British Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, I mean, no, this was a very special weekend for me. One of my highlights, I finished 2nd in Paul Ricard. That was awesome, but I still claim that home at Silverstone as probably one of my most favourite ones, enjoyable ones. No other British driver had done that in over a decade. So all the previous guys that have raced Porsches, had failed to do so. So to crack that in the history books, it was very nice. And I still remember it's a long in lap at Silverstone. There's a lot of runoff, and there's a massive amount of spectators, especially this year. And all the flags as I'd approached, they'd begin to start waving, and it felt a bit like a dream. It was really, really cool and special to see. And I still remember the podium's in quite a cool position at Silverstone, where you look out to a big wide array of grandstands, and even if you glance all the way to the left, you see all the guys up at I think I'm not too sure the name of the corner, but
it's around a Vale and
all of this sort of stuff, and you see them all cheering and waving the flags, but they didn't do that for 2nd or 1st place. So I thought, that's really cool. Everyone's taking notice of it. So
excellent.
that was a very awesome weekend, and of course I had my family there as well, which they hadn't come to any events until then. So to have a podium and have them there at my home Grand Prix, it was a really, really cool weekend. But my intentions are clear for next year. I want to win it. That's the one I want.
Yeah, that's the target for next year. And also, you got the contract for next year and everything, and so it's all in place. So hopefully, hopefully it can happen. Fantastic at Silverstone. I always find those grandstands on TV, it doesn't do it justice to when you're there in person. The noise that kind of echoes around those grandstands. I was there for the Grand Prix last year. And on TV, it just looks like, oh yeah, people cheering. But when you're there, it's loud. It's absolutely amazing, isn't it?
The atmosphere is really, really cool. I mean, of course, you don't hear it when you're in the car, but when you're watching the Formula One after the weekend, it's very special. You don't know how loud they're cheering for you when you're driving, but maybe if you take that and divide it by maybe 3 or 4 times, it's still loud enough. And I'm sure once the crowd gets behind you, there's no stopping them.
Yeah. Good old British fans. We're all right, aren't we? You're okay. Just very quickly before we just conscious of the time. Talk about the like Benelux series. Obviously, you're doing very well in that. Obviously, that's running alongside the Super Cup. Is it I guess it's not quite such a problem as it was with the Carrera Cup GB and the Mobil 1 Super Cup. Is it a bit easier to not juggle the two, but to get on board with it?
Of course, it's the cars are the same, despite being a different chassis number. One's pink, one is blue in Octane Finance colours. So it feels like home to me. It's very familiar. And I think just being able to spend 1 year focusing just on one iteration of 911, it's certainly paid dividends in my Super Cup results. And, of course, the Benelux results have been very strong as well as a result of that. And I think, the Super Cup complements the Benelux, and I think the Benelux complements the Super Cup. So it's a great weekend. It fills out my calendar. So I'm a very busy boy in 911 race cars. And it's great to continue the partnership with Octane Finance and a number of my other supporters who have been very loyal with me in the UK. So it's great to give them, the overseas adventures as well.
Yeah, give them visibility. Works both ways. Fantastic. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you said the next target is to win the Super Cup. Obviously, we touched on this off air. The BTC's been mentioned there because obviously you're well known to fans of the BTCC. Is that something you're looking at sort of further down the line? Maybe to to like come back to. Obviously, I mean you're well in with Porsche, which is a great place to be. I guess there's no reason to step out of that. But yeah, would BTCC be of interest at some point down the line?
Of course, yes. At some point down the line, I'd love to come home, as they say, and race in the British touring cars. I hope there's a few more names staying in there. Um, in maybe for 10 years' time, so I can give them a good race. But yeah, of course, I'd like to give touring cars a go, but I'm perfectly happy in my Porsche 911 for now. I don't see a reason why to move. But of course, in the future, I think it's inevitable, and I think I would really like to come and do touring cars further down the line. And of course, Dan Kirby's a very prominent figure in British touring cars, so we have a bit of an ongoing joke and a bit of banter between each other about whether we'll make it happen one day. But yeah, we'll just sit tight. I'm happy with where I am at the moment. I simply won't change anything. But yeah, we'll see how it unfolds.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure there's a lot of BTCC fans out there that will be keeping tabs, waiting for the day that Harry King joins the series. I think you'd be a very welcome addition. I think a lot of people would love to see you in it, which would be fantastic. Make it even more exciting. Very quickly. I mean, there's a question from earlier on. Forgive me, I forget who asked it. It was regarding Le Mans. Obviously, what's your sort of aim, your target? Is it down the sports car endurance route, or is there anything kind of we're not going to give anything away, obviously, but yeah, what's your sort of route of choice at the moment?
There's plans. There's some cool
Fine.
plans coming. So
Fine.
yeah, certainly we'll be branching across. But at the moment, I'm very happy with where I am in the Sprint Cup. I've got 2 years with BWC Lechner Racing, so there's no excusing. Of course, you can do a bit of endurance racing alongside Super Cup, but I think it's very important for me to keep my focus on one type of car and not jump between a car with ABS and a car with traction control to then take that away from yourself. But there's some exciting stuff, but I'm in no rush to push Super Cup aside. I'm still young, but the future looks pretty exciting.
Good. I can tell from that smile. That's good. We like that. Excellent. Just not even as a hypothetical, well, just as a hypothetical, not in regards to any plans or anything like that. Would you like to give Le Mans a go if
Of
it
course.
came up?
Yeah, of course. That was definitely, something I want to compete at, but not only compete, but I want to be successful with it. Of course, being there is a magical experience, but to be there and say you've succeeded at it or done well at it, I think you can hold a bit more pride, and I think there's a bit more bragging rights in the bar than the guy that's just done them on to say, actually, mate, I've been on the podium there. So
Been on that, yeah.
yeah, you can get another round. So yeah, I certainly. Yeah, Le Mans is definitely on the horizon of what I want to do. It's definitely there with the bucket list of plans, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. There's some big changes happening to the classes in the WEC programs, so yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I would really like to give it a go.
Yeah, brilliant. And it'd be pretty cool to me to say, for me to say that I've spoken to another Le Mans winner, because I've spoken to like Emmanuel Perot a few weeks ago. He's obviously won it 6 times, and spoken to Jackie Hicks, David Brabham, and Mark Blundell, Stefan Johansson. These guys have won it. So yeah, if you could win it, that'd be good.
I'll try my best.
Yeah, smash it. Again, just very quickly, all some fun questions. I think this was Joshua BT asked it earlier on. What's your favourite? Excuse me, where is it? It's the favourite circuit, favourite track that you've raced at.
Favorite track I've raced at? Jeddah.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't see that coming. Yeah.
This was a very special circuit. Crazy,
it's mad,
bonkers.
isn't it? It's like a street circuit, high speed.
It's incredibly
doesn't
dangerous.
work.
It's incredibly dangerous. It doesn't make sense, especially
No.
especially in a 911 with not as much agility as a Formula One car at 150 miles an hour. But yeah, that's bonkers. And then they decide to have a night race as well to add up to the fun of it, and you just suddenly think, what the hell? So, what on earth's going on? but that was probably one of the coolest tracks I've driven. A lot of sand, very high temperatures during the day, and a lot of very late races in the evening. But yeah, a really, really magical weekend.
Yeah, wow. I didn't see that coming on the list of answers. That was that's a good shout, and it's good to get a driver's perspective. It is mad.
Yeah,
Uh, Best racing car you've ever driven?
the pardon, sorry?
The best car you've driven, excuse me, racing wise.
That's racing car, a 992 Cup car. You can't say
No
anything
brainer,
else.
isn't it?
Yeah, I've not. I tend to feel like if I drove in a different or faster car than I'm driving at the minute, I'd probably spoil myself and I get a wandering eye again. So it's hard to fight the temptation. I've had offers to drive some other things, but yeah, a 992 Cup car is the fastest, the best car I've driven so far.
Fantastic. I mean, this might be an impossible question, but I do ask it to everyone. It's probably a bit more difficult when I asked it to the likes of Mario Andretti and Jackie Ickx, who have raced against thousands of races. I mean, you've driven against some very good drivers in their own right. It's got to list a few. You raced against like Seb Prio, and you raced against Enzo Fittipaldi. I didn't realise that you've raced against him and a couple of things. Even guys like Carl Boardley in the Genettas and the BTCC. You got Jack Constable. You mentioned like Will Burns, Ryan Ratcliffe, even Esme Hawkey. You raced against her. Kean Jewish, Lorcan Halvin, Dan Camish.
Yeah,
You've got like Larry Tenfordy. You've got your teammate Dylan Pereira. And Michael Ammermuller, what a legend. I mean, you've raced against some fantastic drivers across the various spectrum. Is there one that stands out in your mind as being, you think, crikey,
I don't want to give any of them the ego boost, but to be honest, I'll be brutally honest with you. Probably this was way back when I was beginning in the Genesis Juniors. I'd have to say, I think just the group of us four in Genesis Juniors in the second year, Daniel Harper, Tom Gamble, Seb Prio. Yeah, this was like absolute warfare. And I think just the 3 or 4 of us combined, the racing was so close and it was so tight. And I think, just look at where the majority of us are now competing and what we're doing in the sport. And I think it speaks volumes for the level of the Genesis Juniors that year. And I still say to this day, the best racing I ever had was those years with those guys. It was horrible, it was brutal, but we look back on it and we have such a laugh, and we're all good friends now. So it makes it, good fun to reflect on.
No, fantastic. That's brilliant. And we should say, before I get a text message from him, we'll put Michael Creasy in there as well. We have to.
Of course, Creasy. Yeah. I never really raced against him because he's a bit further behind.
Oh, get that in.
No, however, yeah, he's a great guy, and on off the track, he's the one teammate that I would happily sit in the truck office with for hours, and I would not get bored at all. So yeah, he's definitely one of the most charismatic and fun guys to enjoy spending a race weekend with. That's for certain.
No, brilliant. Just very quick, I want to touch on that thing that Mark from BTCC Blueprints mentioned earlier on. It basically centers around cash and funding and backing and that kind of a thing. He says there's so many championships and so many drivers just fighting to get backing to get into racing and have a career. He says, do you think we're seeing a saturation point where it's getting too expensive, maybe?
Yeah, of course, it's a very tricky subject for anyone to comment on. In a very lucky position that I had Porsche backing. I had some very close people sponsoring me, and this ultimately enabled me to pursue what I'm doing now. But I remember there was a point where I had no idea what I'd be racing the next season. There was a point where I didn't even know if I was going to be racing the next race or not, and that's how brutally honest it was. But yeah, I see a lot these days where I think there is a point in motorsport where funding can override talent, but I also believe that you can sometimes prove yourself against that if the talent is shown in the right scenarios and the right times.
Sure.
Yes, okay, it's a lot harder than it's ever been, but I think in GTs, I think there's definitely still careers to be made. But of course, for single seaters, I believe that this has become very saturated with a different kind of niche market. But don't get me wrong, a lot of these guys do deserve it. So it's undeniable the speed and the pace that they've got. So you have to respect it. you can't make excuses. You still got to go and do it at the end of the day. Qualifying is the same for everybody. So, I believe that, it's a difficult place to comment, but, the best will always rise to the top, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen guys from F1, well, from F2, F3 go back to Indy cars. Guys like Christian Lundgaard and Callum Arnott, guys like that, just to get the the single seat thing. But you're obviously not on the single seat side. You're very much focused on the Porsches, and long may the success and the upward trajectory continue.
Thank you.
Going to wrap it up. We always say about an hour. It always runs over. Sorry about that.
Sure.
But thanks everyone for tuning in. And obviously thank you, Harry, for sparing your evening after a busy day. It's been great having you on, and it's been great speaking with you. So yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, Richard. Thank you.
Great stuff. No problem. Right, and thanks everyone, guys. We're announcing another chat tomorrow. But in the meantime, thank you very much, Harry. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.
See you later.
Good night, all.